The morning sun had barely touched the hills surrounding the small village of Green Valley when 15-year-old Mascord stepped out of his family's tiny wooden house. The air was cool. Birds sang from the trees. The roads were still quiet. While other teenagers were still asleep, Mascord was already carrying a rusty hoe across his shoulder. His clothes were old. His shoes had holes. His hands were rough for someone his age. Yet every single morning, he walked toward the same abandoned piece of land on the edge of the village. People called it dead ground. Nothing good had grown there in years. The soil was dry. The weeds were taller than a grown man. Even experienced farmers had given up on it. But Mascord believed something different. He believed that if he showed up every day, the land would eventually respond. Unfortunately, the villagers didn't believe in him. They believed in quick results. And Mascord had none. As he passed through the village square each morning, laughter followed him. "There goes the dreamer." Another shouted, "Mascord, are you going to harvest rocks today?" The others burst into laughter. An old man sitting under a mango tree shook his head. "That boy is wasting his youth." Even children copied the adults. Whenever Mascord walked by, they would pretend to dig imaginary soil before laughing and running away. Every word hurt. He was only 15. He wasn't made of stone. Sometimes he smiled to hide the pain. Other times he simply kept walking, because arguing with people never planted a seed. Working did. Mascord's father had died when he was only 10 years old. His mother sold vegetables in the local market just to keep food on the table. There were nights when dinner was nothing more than boiled cassava and salt. Still, his mother never stopped encouraging him. One evening, she found him sitting outside, staring at his blistered hands. "They're right, Mother." She sat beside him. "Who?" "The villagers. I've worked on that land for almost a year. Nothing has changed. Maybe I'm just wasting my time." His mother smiled softly. She picked up a tiny bamboo shoot growing beside the house. "Do you know what this was 6 months ago?" Mascord shook his head. "A seed. It spent months growing where no one could see. No applause. No celebration. No proof. But underground, it was preparing." She gently squeezed his shoulder. "Real growth often happens where nobody is looking." Those words stayed with him forever. The next morning, he returned. Again, every sunrise looked the same. Digging, removing stones, pulling weeds, carrying buckets of water from the river nearly 2 kilometers away. Sometimes his shoulders ached so badly that he could barely lift the bucket. Sometimes rain soaked him. Sometimes the scorching sun burned his skin. Sometimes he wanted to quit. But every day he asked himself one question: what if tomorrow is the day everything begins to change? So he kept going. Weeks became months. Months became years. The land slowly started changing. Not dramatically, just enough to notice. The soil became darker. Tiny worms appeared. Grass began growing. Small signs that life was returning. Mascord celebrated every little improvement. While others waited for miracles, he celebrated progress. That was the difference. One afternoon, a wealthy farmer named Benson stopped beside the field. He looked around, then laughed. "So this is what you've been doing all these years?" Mascord nodded politely. Benson crossed his arms. "You know you could work for me instead. I'll pay you every week. At least you'll see results." Mascord smiled. "I already do." Benson looked around. "I don't." Mascord pointed toward the soil. "I do." Benson laughed and walked away. To him, nothing had changed. To Mascord, everything had. Because consistency had already changed him. He had become stronger, patient, disciplined, focused. Even if the harvest never came, he was no longer the same boy. Then came the year no one expected. The rains arrived later than usual. Most farms struggled. The soil became dry. Crops began dying across the village. Families worried. Farmers gathered every evening discussing their losses. This is the worst season we've seen. People feared hunger. But something unusual happened. Mascord's field remained green. The years of removing stones, adding compost, watering consistently, strengthening the soil, had prepared the land to survive difficult seasons. While other farms dried up, his crops continued growing. The villagers couldn't believe their eyes. Soon, his tomatoes flourished. His peppers multiplied. His vegetables covered the once abandoned land like a green blanket. People walked long distances just to see it. This can't be the same field. Impossible. What did he use? Some believed it was luck. Others whispered about magic. But an elderly woman simply smiled. No, this is consistency. Within weeks, people who once mocked him were now asking questions. Mascord, how did you do it? What fertilizer did you buy? What secret do you know? Mascord smiled. There wasn't a secret. There were mornings, thousands of them. There were days when nobody believed. There were days when I wanted to quit. There were days nothing seemed to change. But I showed up anyway. Silence filled the crowd, because deep inside, they knew the truth. They hadn't failed because they lacked talent. Many had failed because they stopped too soon. One young boy stepped forward. Didn't the insults make you angry? Mascord smiled. They did. So why didn't you quit? He looked across the green field. Because I realized something. The people laughing at me weren't living my future. They were only watching my present. If I had listened to them, I would have inherited their opinions instead of creating my own story. The crowd stood speechless. News of Mascord's farm spread beyond Green Valley. Agricultural officers visited. Local newspapers wrote about him. Schools invited him to speak. Not because he became rich overnight, but because he became living proof that ordinary actions repeated consistently produce extraordinary results. Years later, Mascord owned one of the largest sustainable farms in the region. He employed dozens of villagers. Ironically, some of those employees were the same people who once laughed at him. But Mascord never reminded them. Success had made him humble, not proud. Whenever someone apologized for mocking him, he simply smiled. If I had spent my energy proving you wrong, I wouldn't have had enough energy proving myself right. One afternoon, while speaking to a group of students, a little girl raised her hand. Sir, were you never afraid of failing? Mascord looked at the audience, then smiled. I failed many times. My seeds failed. My crops failed. My plans failed. My body became tired. My heart became discouraged. But failure is only permanent when consistency stops. The room became quiet. Then he continued. People think success comes from one big decision. It doesn't. It comes from thousands of small decisions. The decision to wake up. The decision to practice. The decision to learn. The decision to improve. The decision to continue. As the students applauded, Mascord looked out the window toward the fields stretching into the distance. He remembered the laughter, the insults, the lonely mornings, the blisters, the tears. He realized something beautiful. None of those painful moments had been wasted. They had become the invisible roots supporting everything people admired today. Just like the bamboo his mother had shown him years earlier. The strongest growth had happened underground, long before anyone noticed. Final message. Maybe today, you feel like Mascord. You're working hard, but nobody notices. You're studying while others are celebrating. You're building your business while others are doubting you. You're learning a skill while everyone tells you it's a waste of time. Remember this. Consistency is quiet. It rarely receives applause in the beginning. People celebrate the harvest, but they ignore the thousands of mornings spent planting seeds. Your small daily actions may seem insignificant today. Reading one chapter, saving a little money, practicing one skill, exercising for 20 minutes, learning one new lesson, showing kindness, trying again after failing. None of these seem life-changing by themselves, but over time, they become unstoppable. The life you dream about is not built in one extraordinary day. It is built through ordinary days repeated with extraordinary commitment. So don't stop because people laugh. Don't stop because results are slow. Don't stop because progress feels invisible. Keep showing up. Keep planting. Keep believing. Because one day, the very people who questioned your consistency will point to your success and call you lucky. But you'll know the truth. Luck didn't build your future. Consistency did. Thank you for watching. Your support gives us strength to create more videos like this. So please do well to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. See you in our next video. Bye!